Alrighty, so kind of a news of the day kind of thing again. Because we're getting to that time of year where things are going on, and there's some stuff that's kind of newsworthy, not necessarily just for its own video, but I could throw it all together. Alan Walsh announced on Twitter that he has a new client, Andre Markov, who at the age of 40 is trying a comeback to the NHL. 2 years ago, of course, he wanted to stay with Montreal, but they couldn't come to any contract agreement. I believe what the stalemate was that he wanted a 2-year arrangement, and they only wanted to give him one. And I think that was the extent of it. But he's hired Alan Walsh. Walsh is talking about how he's been working really hard in Florida to get in shape. Not Walsh, Markov. And that, so Markov's doing his best to get back into the game. And we'll see if somebody takes him up on that. Also in big news today, Cam Ward announces his retirement. We could kind of see this coming. He had a rough year last year in Chicago, his first year and only year in Chicago. Retires at age 35 as a Carolina Hurricane. Signs a one-day contract with these guys, and that's the end of it for him. 334 wins in his career, 27 shutouts. Of course, he won the Cup in 2006. Played a grand total of 701 games, so pretty solid career. Likely not a Hall of Famer, I would think, but solid career. No complaints there, and for Carolina, he'll be the number one goaltender in wins for many, many years to come. Nobody's going to get close to that total. I thought he had a rough year in Chicago, but seriously, a very good goaltender in his prime, and I wish him only the best. It's weird to see somebody at 35 and go, okay, Shannon, you're... Holy crap. Anyway, this makes me feel even older. Women's hockey players. Yeah, I know. Everybody's tuning out, right? They're going to play a series of tournaments this fall. They've also announced there's going to be an outdoor game involving the Buffalo Buttes and the Riveters. I believe that's New Jersey. I will say this. The women's hockey in general, I think, needs to be changed. So, for people who are clearly not happy with the whole idea of women's hockey and how they should find a way to make it profitable, blah, 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 I will say this, and I will agree to this. Attendance that we've seen with women's hockey leagues would indicate that it's not something that works as a traditional standard league. You might be better off having tournaments, having sort of events, make it so like it's this kind of a big deal, and make it so you have events. You might make more money that way. Might involve less cost for people putting it together to just have a tournament rather than a whole league and all of the stuff that entails and all the travel expense. Just have your series of tournaments, and this may end up leading to something better for them. So we'll see. But again, for women's hockey, they stay somewhat in the spotlight, and I know people are going to say, well, they don't draw. Right. So for them, it's a matter of finding a way to make that work. And for people who say, well, I'll never be interested, all right, there are people who will be interested, though. I think it's a matter of marketing. There's no marketing. None for women's hockey. So it'd be sort of like me throwing a party and not putting signs out, not telling anybody, just putting up a bunch of decorations and then going, well, nobody showed up at my party, so this party sucks. Yeah, you need to let people know what's going on, and I don't think that the Canadian Women's League, the NWHL, I don't think either of them did that very well. I also wanted to talk about something because we are at that time of year where we talk a lot about contracts. Brian Burke came out and said that he thinks that Austin Matthews is gone in 5 years. And it's not the first time I've heard this. That Matthews signed a 5-year contract with Toronto, and he's clearly on his way out of town in 5 years. So, and I'm asking this because it feels like there are some teams that have this concern. It's not just a Toronto thing, but it feels like with the Leafs, there's a lot of it. Now, is it a matter of the team not having won a cup in a long time, so people are concerned that they're going to repeat a pattern here where the team's going to be good and then it's going to fall apart? Or is there just a concern that the team can't keep a player for his entire career in Toronto? And I asked that because there's been absolutely no reason to think that Austin Matthews is not happy in Toronto. Absolutely no reason to think Austin Matthews wouldn't want to stay in Toronto for his career. And other than the fact that he's born in Arizona, I just don't understand why people think, well, in 5 years he's going to want out. Why? And then the other part that's weird to me is, does it matter? Like, if it's 5 years from now, that's a long time. So a lot can happen over the next 5 years. 5 years from now, maybe he's had injury problems that have made it so he's less effective and Toronto doesn't renew his contract. Anything can happen in 5 years. I just find it weird because we hear a lot about loyalty and loyalty to the team and some concern that this player... And I've seen it with Vancouver too, where Vancouver will sign somebody to a maybe 2 or 3 year deal, and the first thing fans will say is, oh great, they're gone in 3 years. And it's like, seriously? This is just... It's just... I don't get it. I'm bewildered. So I'd be interested to know if you guys have seen that, how you feel about that. And I put up Leafs, but it's not necessarily just Toronto. I know there's other cities where you see that too, and it just feels like it's an insecurity for certain fan bases. Again, Vancouver's definitely in that category as well. And I think people just need to just relax. Just the guy signed to a contract, just relax, and you've got him, so just enjoy that. I also wanted to get into something being discussed on the HF boards. Because RFAs are on everybody's mind right now. And there was a good point raised on there, and I thought, that's not a bad idea. Now, I've stated that I think that the cutoff to sign should be September 15th. If you don't sign your contract by September 15th as a restricted free agent, you're not playing. So take the December 1st date and just bump it right up to the middle of September. That being said, what if arbitration rights were awarded to a player who's got 3 years of experience? So in other words, the guys who are all sitting on the sideline, and right now, according to Cap Friendly, there's 29 players, including, and this isn't all of them, obviously, Werenski, Connor, Marner, Besser, Kachuk, Point, Provorov, Laine, Fiala, who's kind of being counted on to get some points this year, McAvoy, Beauvillier, Carlo, so McAvoy and Carlo for Boston. If they don't start the season with both guys, Boston's in serious trouble. I mean, there's a lot of people who are going, oh, Boston looks really good. Not without McAvoy and Carlo, they don't. Zaka, Kempe, Barbashev, defending Stanley Cup champions. They've got some cap space there for Barbashev. He's still not signed. Konechny and Mangiapane in Calgary as well to sit out with Kachuk. So there are some teams who are in some serious trouble if the season started right now. And for people who say, well, it's not really a big deal, remember, training camps open in roughly 2 weeks. Most of them are open by 2 weeks from Friday. And then the regular season is 5 weeks away. And you go, well, that's a long time. But once training camps open, those players now are getting into game shape. These players, whoever doesn't get signed, they're going to be behind the 8 ball when it comes to being ready for those first important games that start 5 weeks from today. So it is going to be very interesting to see how this turns out. And arbitration rights, maybe that'll be an argument going into the next collective bargaining agreement. Because if these guys had arbitration rights, they could sit down with the GM and go, wow, we're nowhere near a deal, and just file for arbitration. And all of these players could potentially not be on the board. We all have, all right. And then the counter argument to that is that an arbitrator could award 1 or 2 years, so you're kicking the can further down the road 1 or 2 years. My counter is simple, but they're signed. So as long as they're signed, just get it finished. It is the one part right now of the NHL that doesn't work. And one thing that may very well be the problem is, because I have people talking about it a lot with me, the salary cap didn't go up as much as they thought. Teams have been spending to the cap quite often, quite regularly, using LTIR to kind of get around it in some cases. And now they're in trouble. Now these guys all want to get paid what they feel they're worth and what the marketplace would dictate that they're likely worth. And teams don't have the money in their budget. They're looking and they're saying, we can't afford to pay these guys what they want, probably what they deserve, because we're already kind of cap strapped as it is. So it's an issue that could very well get worse next summer, and that's the big concern, is that next summer it could be even worse because teams continue to spend to the cap. So when I see people going, it's fine, we got the cap space to sign. Yeah, we got the cap space to sign. Yeah, you've got the cap space, but eventually those entry-level contracts, those kids are going to want to get paid. There's already concern in Vancouver about how much Pettersson's going to cost Vancouver 2 years from now, and whether or not they're going to have the space 2 years from now to keep Pettersson. I'm not overly concerned about that, but it does cross my mind once in a while. But we'll see. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. This stalemate, which is now threatening. We're getting close to that time where the stalemate is threatening to cut into the season. Even if these guys sign, say, a week after training camp starts, they're now a week behind everybody else. So we're getting up. It really is crunch time. And when I see players being interviewed who are on this list and they're just going, there's no rush, it's fine, we got time. Stop it. Just stop it. That's ridiculous. Sit down with the GM and hash it out. One of these guys has to come off this board within the next, I would say, week. Right? It's got to happen within the next week that one of these names I've got listed here, even if it's Mangiapane, Zacha, Barbashev, these guys shouldn't be getting huge raises as it is, right? So this should be relatively simple to get done. It's going to be an interesting season. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.